slides.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let me welcome Professor and Senior Engineer Abdul Aziz Omar from Malaysia. He will be the distinguished speaker, let me say like that, in this noon, and we will make use of very important information regarding the Washington Accord and the International Engineering Alliance, and how can Iraq be part of this, let me say, international cooperation between engineering education bodies. But first, the President, the Chairman of the Iraqi Council of Accreditation for Engineering Education in Iraq, will start welcoming the speaker. Dr. Ziad, the panel is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Dear colleagues, on behalf of the Iraqi Council of Accreditation for Engineering Education, I welcome Dr. Abdul Aziz Omar to give a glance on the International Engineering Alliance and its accords. We are truly happy to have him with us today, thanks to him. Dr. Abdul Aziz Omar is the former director of the Accreditation Department at Board of Engineers Malaysia and is representative in the International Engineering Alliance. Currently, he is Director of Engineering Programs Development at Sunway University. Dr. Abdulaziz completed his tertiary education in the United States, where he obtained his master's and bachelor degrees from Ohio University, while his undergraduate training was in chemistry and chemical engineering. His graduate specialization was in environmental studies. He had over 26 years of experience as an academician, six years as a refinery process project engineer with Petronas, and 7 years as a senior manager. He has worked on many projects related to the environment, safety studies, and process engineering design. Among his many accomplishments, a significant one would be the setting up of the School of Chemical Engineering at University South Malaysia. He was appointed the founding dean of the school. In March 2001, Dr. Aziz joined University Technology Petronas as an associate professor, where he continued to teach and pursue his research interests until his retirement. Associate Professor Dr. Aziz is registered professional engineer in chemical engineering, registered with the Board of Engineers since 1989, and chartered engineer in the United Kingdom from 2006. He is a fellow of the Institution of Chemical Engineers, HME, in the United Kingdom, and he's active in engineering education. We welcome him again. We look forward for fruitful cooperation, inshallah. شكرا لحضوركم والشكر موصول إلى دكتور علي لإدارة الجلسة. تفضل دكتور.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ziad, for this brief biography of our speaker. And also let me welcome again the attendees or professors from different universities, different specialties, but all are interested in accreditation and improving our engineering education. So Dr. Aziz, now the panel is yours. You can share your screen and start your presentation, please. Please unmute yourself, sorry. Yes.
I cannot share I'm participant, so I cannot share.
I'm sorry, let me check.
Yeah, please open the sharing.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. You are co-host now and you can share your screen.
Okay. Can you see my screen now, inshallah?
Yes, that's great. Yes.
Okay, right, sure. Okay, inshallah. Can you see the screen for not the presenter screen? Is it?
Yes, we can. Now we see a very view for each slide. Yeah, no problem.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So I can change this, no problem. What about now?
Now it is like not in the slideshow display. We can see all the slides. Yes.
It was better. It was full screen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
No,
Yes.
this is too much.
Okay,
this is very large. Sorry, Dr. Aziz. This is now the screen is very large. So we see part of it. Yeah, please, if you can.
Let me change.
Zoom.
I will use this presentation now. This one better.
That's great.
Yes,
that's great. Yes. Yeah.
Inshallah. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Ali, for being the host, and Professor Ziad for that kind introduction. This indeed an honor for me to be invited to present this to the people who's going to do the decision making in Iraq. I have some people from, for example, from UTM, University of Technology Malaysia, who is working with some Iraqi university up north in Iraq. So they were also asking me to help them in terms of what do you call this? Working on the accreditation process. So for this Iraqi university that they were talking about, I forgot what the name of the university. I think somewhere in Kirkuk, I think. Anyway, inshallah, today we will be I will be talking on 3 items. What is International Engineering Alliance? I'll talk a little bit on outcome-based education and the gradual attributes that is the main part of the Engineering Alliance process or baseline guideline for accreditation. And then we'll talk about Board of Engineers experience, how we went through this process and be part of the accord. So let's look at the International Engineering Alliance. We are talking about global standards. The inception of International Engineering Alliance has given the engineering education a global touch. It's now become like a standard that everybody seeks in terms of the quality of engineering education and the graduates produced by these programs. From last year, International Engineering Alliance has partnered with World Federation of Engineering Organization under UNESCO. So we are now become the International Engineering Alliance has now been recognized and accepted by UNESCO and through its World Federation of Engineering Organization to be the principal source or guideline for engineering education and engineering mobility competence, engineering practice for the world.
Sorry, Doctor, to interrupt you, but we just have now the first slide.
You are not looking the second slide, is it?
No, no,
Maybe-
we have, no, we are now see the first slide.
Only the green slide.
The green, yes.
Subhanallah. Something must be wrong with the system. Let me try this again. So you still here green, huh? Right.
Yes, it is now the green.
So
Yes.
now you can see the Muqaddimah.
المقدمة, yes, yeah. It is good now.
Okay.
Yes, go on.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Then, so we are looking at International Engineering Alliance as a standard that is set up since 1989, which I will speak later. And from last year, 2020, the UNESCO, under its World Federation of Engineering Organization, WAFIO, has taken in International Engineering Alliance's system guideline for the accreditation of engineering programs and the mobility of professional engineers around the world. So what we are going to explain to you basically is the global standard, at least in the Western Hemisphere and also in some of the in Asia and Southern Hemisphere. So it's growing actually. So it is now becoming a choice for looking into the standards of engineering. Of course, there are others in terms of the European standards and even the South American standards. But now everybody is converging into this IEA standard. And now we have the support and the partner in terms of the World Federation of Engineering Organization. So IEA's vision is to improve the global quality, productivity, and mobility for engineers by accepting independent authority. The key word here is actually independent. Okay. The keyword here is actually independent authority, which I will explain later. On the best practice and the standards assessment and monitoring of the engineering education and professional. There are two parts. First, the engineering education, and then the second part is the professional competence. This is where the professional engineers' mobility around the world. And their core activities can be summarized in four things. First, consistent improvement of standards and mobility of engineers. Defining those standards for education and also professional competence. This is where the happenings are now. In fact, WAFIO and UNESCO is actually accepting these standards set by IEA, okay, to bring it into a bigger world perspective. And then assessment of course, we do assessment. IEA does assessment of accreditation and the evaluation of competence. Of course, the participation activities by the engineering profession around the world. This is how the IEA develops. In September '89, about 4 countries started the Washington Accord. Six countries started the Washington Accord, and then they started to develop a formal peer review processes so that they can assure that all these countries or jurisdiction, they call it, has the same standard, not the same standard, similar standard, sorry. You cannot same, it's not really same, but similar equivalent standards. So they developed this until they reach until 2002, they developed the engineering and then the engineering technology, which I will also explain after this, and came up with the graduate attributes or the graduate exemplars in the 2001 onwards. And in 2007, they established the International Engineering Alliance to be an umbrella of all these accords that they have, agreements that they have developed over the last 10 to 15 years. So in 2007, the current IEA that we understand was established. So under IEA, we have the educational accords in terms of recognizing or accreditation of engineering programs or degrees. So there are three. We have the Washington Accord, which we will focus today. There is the Sydney Accord. The Sydney Accord is for engineering technology. That is for, some countries have got this technology degree rather than engineering degree. So this is under the Sydney Accord. And the Dublin Accord. The Dublin Accord is actually for technicians, engineering technicians, the diploma level, the skill level, So they have all three groups of engineering fraternity in terms of accreditation that is going to happen to them. Okay. So, but most countries are here in the Washington Accord because this is almost all these countries have got this Washington engineering degrees. So they prefer the Washington Accord, most of them. So Washington Accord was signed in 1989. It is a multilateral agreement between bodies responsible for accreditation or recognition of tertiary engineering qualifications. Okay, so they work together to help in the mobility of the professional engineers, the graduates who has practiced and attained professional status for movement around the countries. Off my head, these 6 countries that started this is United States, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Ireland. So they are the 6 countries that started this. And Washington Accord is specifically focused on academic programs, not the practicing. Okay, it's academic programs, engineering education. Okay, and these are the current countries that has been entered in as signatories. You can see that about 20 or 21 countries, I think. Australia, Canada, China, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, India, Ireland, Japan, Korea, of course, Malaysia, New Zealand, Russia, Singapore, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Turkey, United States, United Kingdom, Pakistan, Costa Rica, and Peru. So we have almost across the world continent. We have North America, Central America, South America, we have Europe, Asia, so it's a big thing. So now provisional status waiting to get into a signatory are these countries. You can see mostly from Asia and of course Central and Southern Americas. The Sydney Accord is for engineering technology. So this is acknowledging the fact that the practice of engineering technology is also part of a wider engineering team. Okay. And the signatories are not many at the moment, about 10, 11 of them. Australia, Canada, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, Ireland, Korea, New Zealand, South Africa, United Kingdom, United States, and Malaysia, and 2 on the provisional status. And then Dublin Accord is for technicians, education based for technicians. And because they acknowledge that the fact that technicians also plays a very important role in the wider engineering team. So the International Engineering Alliance has covered all the professional professions under engineering, from the engineers to the engineering technologists, and the technician themselves. So these are the three accords. For Dublin Accords, only about 9 countries that has been the signatory. And Malaysia, like Australia, and the Kingdom, and United States, are in all the 3 signatories. So the provisional status means that before you can become a full signatory, you need to be provisional, where they will train you to achieve the level of signatories. So they give opportunity for you to join the group through provisional status in order for you to be trained, to be guided towards becoming the standards that they want at that signatory level. So we were talking just now about this accord, engineering degree. So for Iaea, engineering degree must be a 4-year program after K-12, after the secondary pre-U status, 4 years. For the engineering technician, a 3-year program can be accepted. And for technician, a 2-year program is accepted at the Dublin level. Okay, so we were talking about this. There is another portion of the Iaea, is called the practice agreement, the blue side here. Okay, these are the group that approves the international professional agreement, meaning to say this is the movement of the professional engineers who have been working for 7 years, have been given the professional engineer certificate or chartered status, and they can now move from countries to practice without having to take any other exam. So this is where the professional practice agreements are in the Iaea. Okay. So the Washington Accord looks at the movement of engineering career, the education and the training towards becoming a practicing engineer like this. You start with the accredited program, accredited by WA, and then go through experience and become a professional engineer. And then you get into the professional agreement where you become mobility is there. You can move around the world in terms of your practice. Okay. So basically, it is a external education to the tertiary education program that qualify the graduates for professional engineering practice. So you got to get this accredited degree through Washington Accord for you to be able to go into practice. So in other words, if you graduate from a Washington Accord country, you can go and start working this part of your career in another country that is also part of the Washington Accord. So in other words, that mobility is also after graduation, not just at professional level. So you can graduate from Malaysia, for example, and go to Australia and practice and become professional engineer in Australia. But because he is a professional engineering in Australia, when he comes back to Malaysia, he's also accepted as a professional engineer in Malaysia because of the agreement, under the practice agreement. So that's how basically that works, right? So what are the underpinning requirement for accreditation of the accords? So the underpinning requirement is actually gradual attributes. Very simple. It's just a gradual attributes that they set up, which I will show you a little bit later. Okay, so this gradual attributes are the exemplar of outcome-based specification of programs. That's why we're going to talk about what is outcome-based later. And this outcome-based will make it a little bit more broad and wide open understanding that allows each country freedom to design the programs within that attributes. As long as you can achieve those attributes from your program, you are considered as equivalent to the standards of WA, and you will be, you don't have to be, I mean, the engineering program in Malaysia, in United Kingdom, in Australia, is not the same in terms of the curriculum. But because of the outcome base, the outcome that we want is the same as the graduate attributes underlined by the Washington Accord and the IEA, that we become equivalent, okay, and equivalent standards as everybody else. That is, we got to understand. You don't. There is no strict regimen of curriculum that we offer. When I say we, it means IEA lah. When it's not a regimen curriculum that is being offered by the IEA. It just gave the underpinning guideline, which is the graduate attributes, and then you can design your curriculum how you find it fit. So what are these graduate attributes? Okay. These are the 11 graduate attributes. Okay. Start off with engineering knowledge. Okay. Engineering knowledge, problem analysis, design and development of solutions, investigation, tools, usage, engineer in the world, ethics, individual and collaborative teamwork, communication, project management and finance, and lifelong learning. As long as all these 11 attributes is in your engineering curriculum, in whatever way of subjects that you propose curriculum, then it is considered as equivalent or similar to the one that is being recognized by all the signatories of the Washington Accord. So this gives you that broadness, the freedom to design your own curriculum. So like for example, mechanical engineering in Malaysia, we emphasize on certain things. Mechanical engineering, say for example, mechanical engineering in Australia emphasize different things. But the outcomes must have all these 11 attributes. Okay. So what is assessed is actually the outcome, is these 11 attributes. And it's also part of a complex problem solving. So the knowledge, the problem solving, the design is based on the complex problem solving. That is the difference between Washington Accord and the Sydney Accord and the Dublin Accord. That is the complex problem solving. Okay, this one, there's another whole course we can talk about all these attributes. In Malaysia, we do this training 2 days just to understand individual things in order for you to create the curriculum you want. Okay, So that is what it is really is. It's outcome based, and the outcome you want to see is these 11 outcomes. These 11 outcomes, okay? The knowledge, the problem analysis, development of solutions, the ability to investigate problems, the tools that you use, all the modern tools, especially now with the engineering, with the data analytics, IoT, and all these things. And of course, the world. The engineer must understand the world, must understand sustainability, must understand the environment, must understand that these are part of contribution. So how you can contribute to a more sustainable world, you know, the SDG, you know, these Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations will be incorporated in that curriculum. And of course, ethics. This is very important, ethics. And teamwork. You are not working in silo, you are not narrow. You have to work with people, skill in communicating, and I think we all know about this. So all these things must be part of the curriculum. How you frame it, how you put into the different modules is up to you. So that's why it's called outcome-based. Okay, you just need to see these 11 outcomes of the total 4-year program. These 11 outcomes can be assessed. So then why we are looking for outcome-based education? Why is the Iaea promoting this since the year 2000? They have been promoting the outcome-based, and very difficult for us to. I think our learned professors here in the audience, if you remember how you set up the curriculum, engineering curriculum, you are thinking, say for example, chemical engineering. Okay, I'm from chemical, I can talk. So what does a chemical engineering graduate needs to become a chemical engineering? So we talk about mass energy balance, we talk about heat transfer, mass transfer, process control, design. We're talking about it. So we design the courses based on those things. Okay, now we put mass and energy balance here, thermodynamics here, fluid mechanics here. Yes, but it is not outcome based. It is based on what we think the student should know. So now the outcome based is not looking at that perspective. They are looking at the end of the graduates, at the end of the program, what does the student come out as? What knowledge, what experience, what understanding, what learning they have. So that is OBE, okay? So according to SPEDI, outcome-based education is actually, you start with a clear picture of what the students who should be able to do when they graduate. Then you work backward to organize the curriculum, the instruction, and the assessment. So for this is mentioned in 1994. That's why at the end of the 20th century, the outcome-based starts to move. The way these countries, you still need fluid mechanics, you still need thermodynamics, you still need mass and energy transfer, you still need reaction engineering for chemical engineering. Okay, so but the way you frame the curriculum now makes it more of a learning approach, more of building insan kamil, not necessarily insan kamil. Let's say Muhandasis Kamili, okay, a complete engineer who is not just robotic but humanistic. So this is the concept of outcome based. So it is based on the learning outcome that we are putting in those 11 graduate attributes will be the learning outcome for engineering, and all the activities will also be based on those outcomes. That's why now, instead of just the lecturer in front speaking like I'm doing to you now, but the students get involved. The blended learning, the active learning comes in, because in the end, it's the outcome that is more important than what is thrown at the student. what is exam that doesn't know. It's the outcome now we are looking at. This is what we discussed over the years that I've been with the board engineers and the IEA people. When we go to their meetings, these are the discussions they're talking about. Okay, so then the assessment is based to assess the outcome rather than to assess the knowledge. There's a difference there. Inshallah, you take time. Malaysia took a long time to understand that. Okay. All right. So in terms of curriculum design, then it will move forward from the bottom to the top. Mission of university, the program objectives, you know, and the outcomes. This is the outcomes. So it comes from here. Also, it comes from here. So it is a movement that is not just directionally like that, but also that way. So it becomes, in the end, you want to look at the outcomes. Okay. So just a quick look at what are the characteristics of OBE curricula. One, they must have program objectives. What after graduation, after 3 to 5 years of graduation, okay, where are your graduates going to be? Are they going to be a chemical engineer in a plant, in oil and gas, or in chemicals? You know, so you have this, what do you call this? You have this what do you call, something that you plan for the graduates, not for the you have that graduates thing. Excuse me for a while. I need to ask somebody to shut off the. Excuse me.
No problem, Doctor.
بعد إذن دكتور علي نستغل هاي الفرصة
نعم دكتور تفضل.
السادة الأعضاء على علم، ولكن معنا ضيوف أيضا حتى يعرفون المغزى من هذه الاستضافة. الحقيقة احنا بدينا ب excuse me please دكتور عزيز، احنا بدينا بوضع الكومبتنسيز اللي هي الجراديويت اتريبيوتس، ومن عندها رحنا الى البروجرام education objectives، ومن عندها رحنا الى الجراديويت اوتكمز والستودنت اوتكمز. فالديزاين مالتنا الان احنا يثبت لنا انه البروسيجر اللي اتبعناها كانت correct and accurate في تصميم العراقي كرايتيريا، ولذلك كانت هاي المحاضره. Sorry for interruption, Dr. Aziz, please.
It's all right. Translation is fine. Okay, khair. So you have these program objectives, you have program outcomes, the graduates. So this one is when the graduate has graduated 3, 4, 5 years, you plan for them what they expect them to be, a manager or just a specialist, you know. So you have those things. Then you build it. The outcomes is the graduate's attributes, and at the cost level, this is at the cost level, and of course, how do you measure those things? These are some of the things. I'm not going to go very detailed in this. Inshallah, I think many of you also will be aware of this now. Okay, so the stated objective of outcomes can and should be assessed and evaluated in terms of the outcomes. We're talking about assessing outcome, not assessing knowledge. There is a difference between assessing knowledge and assessing outcome. So this is how we're looking at it. Okay, I'm not going to go in detail this. So it is centered around the needs of the students and the stakeholders. The stakeholders may be the markets outside your around the country, for example. So it is not around what you want to tell them. What the UC said, you must learn this. No, we develop the curriculum so that the students will be able to be fit into the world of engineering. So there is this the approach is a little bit different. So I will show you later that it took many years for Board of Engineers Malaysia to bring the universities to the outcome-based education. And then you are looking at the cognitive level, you're looking at the psychomotor level, and you're looking at the affective level. The knowledge, the skills, and the attributes as one. Most of the time in the previous world, we were looking more on this. Okay, long time ago, we were looking more on this. But now we are not just looking on that. We're also looking on attitudes, on the skills. All right. So your TNL, the teaching and learning methodology, will have to be a little bit twisted. You know, you should be changing from the old school into thinking of more of a integrated and blended delivery that we were talking about. I think blended education delivery, I think many of you have heard about this, inshallah. And of course, the continuous quality improvement must be there. So how do you know that your graduate has achieved the graduate attributes? Okay. So what determines the outcome of a program? So these are the questions you set. Are the graduate having the attribute set? Have they got the 11 sets that we set out for them, the graduate attributes? What you might want to do your own indicators based on your experience, based on your environment, based on your culture. Okay. Then the question is, are your graduate employable in your country, your place, or even the world? So these are the things that you ask. All right. So these are processes. You still need academic curriculum, definitely, right? So the content and the assessment now, the focus is not on just knowledge, but focus is on the outcomes, on the engineer, what kind of engineer you want. Okay. To teach them mechanics, to teach them reaction engineering is very simple, and they can now learn themselves even if we ask them, you know, because the internet world is so open education, and you have MIT with open access courses, things like that. And then of course the teaching staff must be retrained, and of course the facilities will be updated, and your quality management systems must be in place, because the quality management system determines the continuous improvement happening in the outcome-based education. Okay, so I have already talked about the two things I want to talk about, the Iaea and about outcome-based education. Now let me explain to you a little bit about our organization here in Malaysia, the Board of Engineers. The Board of Engineers has got 17 board members. These board members are actually by law, because we have in Malaysia we have the Engineers Act by Parliament. The Parliament acted an act in 1967. They call it the Engineers Act of 1967. So the act is put up so that we can regulate engineering in Malaysia, so that the public interest is looked up upon. Engineers who fail to meet the standards or cause accidents will be penalized, so that there will not be what we call hanky-panky, you know, in engineering. There will not be shortcuts, so that can cause catastrophe, accidents, and all this. So, under the law, under the Parliament Act, the Board of Engineers are 17 of them, and they are elected or not elected, they are appointed by the Ministry of Works in Malaysia. In Malaysia, the Minister of Works will appoint them based on the advice of the public or the learned bodies. So there are a few learned bodies that will submit their nominations, and the minister will pick up from there. Okay. So, and usually the minister will not will usually accept those nominations by the learned bodies. And then from the board, they have committees that look into registration of engineers, practices, whether they are doing right or wrong practices, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, they have the Engineering Accreditation Council that looks at accreditation, where I was there. Okay, and engineering technology. This is for the Dublin and Sydney Accord. So we have two: one for Washington Accord Council and one for Dublin and Sydney Accord Council. So this is where we all accreditations must go through here in order to be accredited program in Malaysia. And at this level, they are all volunteers. I mean, they are company owners, government servants that are on the board. All right, and in the council and in the committees. But they are supported by the people who are salaried at the Board of Engineers. This includes the accreditation department, where I was heading before, and of course the other departments that handle the other committees. So this is our organization chart. All right. So basically, these are appointed by the government. These are appointed by the board. This level are appointed by the board. The board is appointed by the government. This one is appointed by the board, and the council must be shown that they are not they are independent. The word, remember the concept of independent authority. So you must show that you are independent body. You can decide without interference from the government or from the board. So you can do that, then you are acceptable to join the Washington Accord, the IEA. So the design of this council in Board of Engineers is such that they are independent of the government or the board. They only report to the board, in terms give reports. They don't get approval from the board. They make the final approval. The council, these two councils make a final approval on the accreditation of engineering program. Of course, we are certified. So what? Let's look at the journey of Board of Engineers. Malaysia was quite early in terms of getting into Washington Accord, one of the earliest countries. We started when we wanted to go into joining the Washington Accord to be part of accredited under the Washington Accord. We started to introduce outcome-based education in our by the board introduced this to the universities around the early 2000. Okay, so everybody starts to go to the outcome-based type of academic program, and then once we have put that up, it's easy for us to go for provisional status because we're already starting to practice OBE, and 2003 we were accepted as provisional signatory. Meaning to say now we are part of them, but we do not still have that same rights as the signatories. So we become provisionals for 3 years with mentors. That mentoring in Malaysia, you know, mentors come from, I think ours was long ago, I forgot. Okay, ours was from Hong Kong, Australia, and United Kingdom that mentor us for us to journey towards full signatory in 2009. After 6 years, that's considered late, you know. After 6 years, very difficult to get the OBE way of education to show its fruits, you know. So was quite difficult. In fact, most of the countries will be at least 3 years. It's never shorter than 3 years. But Malaysia, we choose to go longer in the same time because we thought we were not ready. And then once you got full signatory, there is a 6-year cycle where you need to be re-evaluated, whether you are still on the same path or not. So you go through a review, being reassessed. And then, of course, we become signatories to Sydney and Dublin Accord in 2017 and full signatories in 2018. So we are now full signatories. Okay. So just some kind of picture for you to understand. So when in 2002 we had the intent to join Washington Accord, we started our OBE because we also don't know what is OBE at that time. So we put ourselves, the board engineer says, okay, we're going to go join the Washington Accord, but we need to do outcome-based education. So then we said, okay, let's start now. Tell all the universities that move to outcome-based. We take the attributes from Washington Accord, we tell them, develop accordingly. So that's what's happened in 2000. And then in 2003, once we got the Washington Accord provisional status, we now have some idea of OBE. So we were tinkering with it. We were trying try here and there, you know, this university do it like this university do it like that, this university do it like that, you know. So all these various universities shared their best practices to understand that. And then when we joined the Washington Accord, we were accepted to be full signatories in 2009. All universities in Malaysia has put the OBE practices in place. So theoretically, the OBE concept of a curriculum education now in place, everybody should be practicing it. But yet, the real thing, you know, to develop human, and it's very difficult. So it takes time. So we plan until 2015, when the Washington Accord came to review us. They sent people to come in to do assessment. It was difficult, but we got to extension. So we got the extension until 2021. So this year they will be coming to Malaysia. They should have come to Malaysia. I think they postponed it to next year because of COVID. So next year they will come and assess Malaysia again, Board of Engineers again, to see whether we are still on the road. So at this juncture, we thought that we should start now understanding how to gain from the OBE concept, how to harvest, we call it, how to make sure that we understand it. Okay, because we must make sure that we are now using that, you know, outcome assess, complex problem solving are been seen as part of the engineering program being using in the country. Okay, so this is our journey basically. So we are still learning basically, but we are already on a good track over the last 20 years, mashallah, 20 years. There's a lot to learn. And of course, in fact, blended learning, outcome-based education is still a lot of papers written in the engineering education now. It's not really settled yet. You have this Washington Accord, the Iaea standards, then you have the European standard, the German standards, the French standard. They are different. They don't want to change, but because they are not, they doesn't fit the graduate attributes, that concept or outcome-based concept by the Washington Accord, they refuse to join the Washington Accord. So the Germans and the French has got their own system. Okay, so I think that's what we have done. So relationship between the Board of Engineers and IEA has been very good. We have been helping them out, joining the meetings, participate in policy and decision making. We have been reviewers of signatories. We were sent to review Turkey. We were sent to review Japan, you know, with a team, of course, with the whole team. There are about three people that will be going. And of course, we do mentoring. We mentored Bangladesh, we mentored Pakistan. We are now mentoring Kenya, a few other countries. Okay. So some of the benefits that we realized as a part of the Washington Accord is that graduates from Malaysia can easily get employed in secondary countries, in Australia, you know, in Singapore. When the graduates apply to these countries, the first thing they will ask the graduate, is your degree accredited by the Washington Accord? If not, they cannot get the work permit. This is what's happening in Singapore, in Australia, and even in Malaysia. We will ask that question. Admission to postgraduate studies, of course, once you are when you are recognized, it will be recognized across the Washington countries, Washington Accord countries. So all these countries will easily, there is this admission will not be not so difficult. And BEM, because we are one of the first one in the region with Singapore to be under Washington Accord, we were recognized regionally in terms of engineering standards. Everybody in Southeast Asia and this Far East are looking at Malaysia and Singapore as well for the guidance in terms of engineering standards. So this is very, very important in terms of our affiliation with IEA. So my point is, in the end, if you look at Washington Accord accreditation, it really opens your graduates to the world. And also at the same time, you know, countries like Sri Lanka, Costa Rica, Peru, now they are now visible to the world in terms of their strength in engineering. So these are the things that why makes people coming to now, and why the World Federation of Engineering Organization are partnering with IEA in terms of ensuring that the graduate attributes are compatible to the whole world, basically. So that's it. Shukran jazilan, and I'm open to question now, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aziz, for this valuable presentation. And in fact, I like your way to introduce the accreditation in more depth, especially the main philosophy of accreditation by mentioning the outcomes-based education paradigm or the philosophy of education, and which is new in engineering education. So thank you again for this presentation, and let me open now the panel for questions. So I ask the audience to use either the chat box or raise their hand, and they can ask directly to Dr. Aziz. And also, may I ask in Arabic and English, does it matter? I think Dr. Aziz also maybe understands some Arabic words, and I can translate. Yes, great. So let me start with Dr. Jalal. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz, for your lecture. I have one or maybe two questions. The first question is about the Washington Accord. How they are going to check your the IEA? You said they have review 1 and they are coming to review 2. So what are they going to check? You have so many engineering college. Are they going to the colleges, or I mean, how they are going to evaluate your work? That's the first question. The second question is about OBE. You mentioned that you are working through 20 years of OBE, and you said it is a long time. Actually, I found it is not a very long time. Actually, it is short time, because in Iraq, we are working now for 5 to 6 years. We have the knowledge, but we can't, how you can, the faculty, you can make them work with OBE. It is very difficult problem. The work toward the OBE are concentrated only for a few faculty. We can't make it public. We can't convince the staff to work with OBE. So how you are convince your faculty? You have so many colleges, and we are talking about all colleges. The progress you mentioned in your chart, are they represent all the colleges? How you can measure the improving in OBE in your chart? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jalal, for this important. Yeah, changing the minds is very important always. Yes, Dr. Aziz.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
the first question: how the mechanism of Washington Accord assessing us? Yes, Prof. Jalal, they come to us. We are asked to choose the maybe 6 programs, 2 from the top level university, 2 from the average university, 2 from not so good university. So they will come in, and we have to bring them to those universities. They will go through the paperwork, look at the assessment or the profile, the portfolios that we have developed in our system of assessment. So we have that system of assessment must be in place now. You must develop it. The Accreditation Council must have a standard operating procedure or a manual standards for accreditation. So from that standards, we ask the universities to work on that. We also accredit based on that. And then when the Washington Accord wants to do it, they will come in and visit the university. They will look at the way we do assessment. They will sit in the live process of assessment. You know, so when we go to do the accreditation process, they will follow us. So that the timing they come is the time also we set to go to accredit the university. So it's definitely like a professor comes into class and do examination to the student. Exactly the same. So they come in, they come over for 2 weeks, you know, to move to these universities to do the checking, and they see if they are looking at our procedures. Are we following the standard manual that we give them? How do we supposed to do it? And they will see those things happening. And they will see whether there is bias or non-bias. They can see that whether we are doing shortcut or not shortcut. So this it's quite stressful for us, also quite stressful as the assessor. You know, we want to go to assess the university. The university definitely will be very stressful. They never sleep for 2 weeks, and of course we as an assessor also we will be stressed because they will be looking. So it's definitely a physical thing that they will do. So it's the old school type of assessment.
So they are choosing accredited programs from sample.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
You cannot non-accredited, they don't come. You know. All right. So, all right. The second one is a good question. I can give a 7 hours lecture. Okay.
Yes.
I give you a 7-minute answer.
It's a history. Yes.
It's always difficult. It's always difficult when you want to get people to change because they think they have done their best. This is the best way. I think. You know, the dean of that, you know, the faculty was, this is the best. This is my best. This is our experience. Blah blah blah. You know. Okay. But that's why, in order for you to have the buy-in, first thing that we do is we get, in terms of Malaysia actually, we get the government to agree. The government says, okay, you go ahead and join the Washington Accord. So when you have that leadway, the big authority says you go, then those who want to follow can follow. Those who don't want to follow, they don't follow. But because if you don't get accredited in the country, in your own country, you cannot, it's illegal for you to, because under Malaysian law, it is illegal for you to offer the degree. So in other words, you can still offer the degree, but your degree is not recognized in Malaysia. So it's not recognized, students don't go to university. The student automatically will not go because you are not recognized. You know? But if you are recognized, the student comes in. That is the actually thing. But again, wallahi, you must have networking. You must got to talk to them, must be very friendly, you know. Look, this is the situation. We're going to go and get accredited by the world. So in order to get accredited by the world, you got to get your system fitting the world.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's definitely either yes or no, either black or white. So, but you cannot force them. Some people don't want to do it. In Malaysia, very early before, definitely they weren't ready. So they said, no, we're not going. But of course, the public university under the government, they have to do it because the government asked us to join. So they are forced. So they have to change whether they like it or not. But the private universities, they say, no, we don't want to go. And so they start twinning with foreign universities, you know. But when the foreign universities are twinning, like Britain or Australia, in Malaysia, also goes to the accreditation, that university don't want to twin with them anymore because they are not accredited. So in the end, over the years, they are forced to comply. And of course, everybody will submit now atau na in the end. But in the same time, the concept of OBE is not clear. That's why I said the OBE, I said 20 years trying to make it clear, you know, but you said, Prof. Jala said it's a very short time. But, you know, my age, I'm age like you, most of you, I start from scratch also. And after all these 20, 25 years doing this thing, you feel very tired. But, you know, you keep on trying. And alhamdulillah, I think we have reached that stage in Malaysia where people now moving to, it's actually people with the gray hair difficult to change. The young ones, very easy for them. But inshallah,
Thank you very much. I think the first important thing you mentioned is the government.
Yes, the support of government.
I think that's what we need, what we have to do in Iraq. Thank you very much for your answer.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jalal. Dr. Khalil, yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Well, thank you, Dr. Aziz, for this presentation. Really, it is very useful for us. And really, you are pleasure to hear these steps in Malaysia. Dr. Abdulaziz, how we can go through all this process? We are already established the council and the criterion is already, we are currently in, let me say, in good start, doing everything, even we organize different courses, different workshop, right? But as you mentioned, your journey takes around 17 or 20 years until you get the full signatures, right? So I think is there any way, any short way, and everything is settled down? So this is the first thing. The second thing about the BEM, are you independent? The board is independent or dependent? Let me put it another way. How sort of support you want for the board? Thank you very much.
I answered the easier one, but the board of engineers. the board of engineers is actually self-supporting. In other words, its financing comes from the license, professional engineer license that they charge. Okay, so also accreditation also they be charged. You see that once the accreditation also be charged. So they are self-financing. Even though it is born out of the Act of Parliament, and the main board is actually appointed by the Minister of Works, but it is independent and did not, of course, initially, of course, when you start with zero, the government put in some money to start. But once the system moves with the registration on all these things, they pay annual registration for engineers, professional engineers, then it was become self-financing. So we are, the board of engineers is basically autonomous. I cannot say independent, but I say autonomous. So we don't need the support of the government to speak in terms of financing the board. So in that way, we can make independent decision. That is where the Washington Accord, the Iaea wants. You can make the independent decisions, so that you are not, you are not being pushed by the government. You must recognize this university. You must recognize. No, we say the government says no. No, we say no. No, we are not going to do it. And because the government asked us to join Washington Accord, we say that if you ask us to do that, then we cannot go to the Washington Accord. And the government of Malaysia is so afraid of that because he wants international investment. So we make sure that the engineers in Malaysia are recognized by the world. I think the same with Iraq. You want international investment. The engineers that you're going to work with you must be recognized by the world. Otherwise, they don't come. This international company won't come in. Something like that. So in the end, it works well in the Malaysian case. I mean, Malaysians are not so tough people. You know a lot of Malaysians. Some of you might have known Petronas people in the Basra area before. So these are the things that we do. I think in terms of that, we are autonomous. We can make independent decision because we are self-financing. That is the board. On the difficult first question, how do you shortcut it? I don't think there is any really shortcut. But I still say but inshallah you have this opportunity at the moment, because now there's a lot of studies, a lot of papers, a lot of experience in outcome-based, which you can easily adopt. You can easily adopt. When we started in the 2000, because everybody was just starting, there's not enough understanding concept of outcome-based. But now you can call even ABET. I think some of you are calling ABET in, and ABET will talk to you about outcome-based. If you, I know the Saudis, they are calling the ABET people to train them, because we are working. Malaysia has been working with Saudi Engineering Council for them to come into Washington Accord. So they are now working towards this direction. They say they have paid a lot of money to the ABET people to come in, and they say, fine, it's okay. But again, they are not moving you to Washington Accord. They're just training you to understand outcome-based. So this can be done, inshallah. So that's the only thing I can say. You have the opportunity with the current knowledge and experience available a lot around the world. You can call in, Malaysia.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You understand? Okay lah.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz. I agree with you that we should put the base for to be part of the Washington Accord, and the base is the outcomes-based education. And I think we need a long time to train our faculties and also other staff and the administrative staff, authorities, etc. And the main thing, as Dr. Jalal said, and you also agreed, that the government, the adoption of the government of this new system of engineering education, I think this is the first step before anything. Yes, another question. I have a question, Dr. Aziz. it is you mentioned many times the independency of the accreditation body. I understand it should be independent from the universities, from the education institutes. But now I hear from you that it should be independent from the government as well. So please, can you clarify this point?
Yes, the Washington Accord says that you must be an independent authority. But independent authority for them is that you must be able to make decision without fear or favor from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, you know, these Western people, Americans, Western European, they when they think about us in the third world or in this part of the world, they say your government can push you to do anything.
Yes.
So you must prove to them that this Council of Accreditation of Engineering Education of Iraq is independent from that.
Yes.
That's it. So how does the independence been shown? First, all your decisions are final, and your financing is not by the government. That's it.
Yes.
So in our case, the financing is from the fees.
Yes,
because in Malaysia we have 52 universities, something like that, and over 300 programs, engineering programs. So it is very sustainable for us.
Yes, of course. Who sponsor you also should affect your decisions, of course.
Yeah.
Or pay you the money. Yeah. Dr. Ziad, I think also you have some questions.
Yes, thank you. It's my turn, the last one, always. Thank you, Dr. Aziz, for this marvelous presentation. I have a couple of questions. I'll ask the first one and get the answer, and then go to the second one. The first is, I need some more explanation about the provisional status. How many mentors at a time, and for how long, and any charges for that? Thank you.
Okay, provisional. You will need to apply for provisional. You need to get what we call nominator. So usually the nominator are people you choose, the country choose. Okay, you say you want Australia and Hong Kong. You contact them, they say okay, they agree. So they will come to you, discuss what you have and all these things. They are confident that you are ready to be provisional. They will nominate, because they are members already, signatories. They will nominate to the council, to the Washington Court Council. So then you get once the approved to become provisional member, you will be down, the mentor will be assigned by Washington Accord. But you can always prefer somebody. You say, we prefer these people. They say, okay, they approve, then they are mentor. Usually the mentors are 2 or 3, depending on your situation or your preference. It will be, usually 2 is minimum. And the minimum period of mentoring is 2 years. Provisional level is 2 years. After 2 years, you can apply for full signatory. That is the standard. But usually, like I said, very difficult people to get 2 years. Usually more than 2 years. Like Malaysia, for example, we went all the way to 6 years because we ourselves, we said we were not ready. We want to be continued to be mentored. The cost is, you don't pay anything to Washington Accord at that time. You only need to pay for the mentors to come over to do training or to observe your practice and all these things. The cost is actually on the mentors.
Yes, thank you. But for more explanation, do we apply to the Iaea first, or we coordinate with the mentors first, and then apply by them to the international engineering?
That's a good question. You can do both ways. You can apply direct to you can go to the Iaea website and get what you need to do, then you prepare a self-assessment report and send that you want to apply for membership into the Washington Accord. Or you can get a nominator that will help you to do the application. But you still have to do yourself, but the nominator will support you in terms of how to do it, how to prepare the correct report, you know, like that. So if you have the experience, or you can understand the format of the self-accreditation self-assessment report that is required for the application, then you can proceed with yourself. But still, before you send in, you must already appoint the nominator, because the letter of the nominator must go together with that application.
Yes, I see. Thank you very much. The second question, please. You know, in the Middle East, and maybe somewhere else in the world, most accreditation agencies are governmental. Most of them are directly linked to the cabinet or the prime minister. So they are independent of the Ministry of Education, or if there is no ministry, maybe a council for universities. They are independent, but still they are linked to the government. And at the same time, there are the syndicates, the professional societies, and other. The question is, does the IEA and the WEPO accept more than one organization from the same country to do accreditation? Please.
No, they only accept one.
They only
From one
accept
country.
one.
Yeah.
It should be professional, or it can be governmental.
That is a very good question. It's a little bit tricky. You know, I gave you our own example and our experience with our other mentees. You know, most countries in the East, like our country, third world country, in developing countries, Malaysia, even in Africa, and another part of Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Usually, the engineering board is actually part of government. Okay, but what we did was that because we got the approval of the government to go to this, we would tell the government that we need independence on the accreditation decision making. We don't want anything else, any other independent. We just want independence on the accreditation decision. We will say that this university have been accredited, so that is our independence. You cannot change this decision by the, as long as you can show that to the IEA that you have that independence, they will be okay. Because we are one of the example, Malaysia, and Pakistan is one of them that we know. And also we know the negative one. I'm not going to say which country, one country in Africa, because when they go in the application, we were the nominator. Malaysia, we advised them, do not do this, do like this. They didn't follow us, they failed, because their connection to the government is still very clear. You know, so they were the WA didn't accept them. So in other words, yeah, most of us are related to the government, but if we can negotiate with the government or with the board that handles, for example, I do not know who you report to, the ICAEE reports to who. You can tell that the person, the level that you report to, that in terms of accrediting the accreditation of the programs, the results stop at us. We will be the final decision. We just inform you. So if they agree that, then you're okay. I mean, the Washington Accord will probably accept you at that sense. That's what they want, independent, no interference. So like Malaysia also, the Board of Engineers cannot interfere. Only the council will make decision. The Board of Engineers only get the result.
Thank you very much. It's clear now. Thank you very much. No more questions, Dr. Ali?
Yes, I think that you have another one. I have a question, Dr. Aziz, about the mentoring process. So what are the main duties? Are they the same as what IEA do? For example, like visiting the country, choosing some accredited programs and so on?
Mentor is up to you. You arrange with the mentor. Okay, I need training on OBE. So you arrange everything. You invite all the university heads or lecturers. The mentor will come in and train for you. Or you want the mentor to set up, help you set up your manual, your standards, operating procedures, how to do accreditation. It's up to you. You tell them, the mentor will do everything. Your only cost is to bring the mentor to your country and to pay for the expenses. That's all. And
do the mentor write, for example, like a progress reports and something like that?
They will have to write a progress report every year. They will write
to IEA.
Yes, every year.
Every year. Great. So, any question, Dr. Khalil? Yes, go on. This will be the last question.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe this is the last questions. Dr. Abdulaziz, I wonder, after you accredit any programs, say within, you give them for 4 years or 6 years, okay? So within 4 years, are you going to monitor the programs, doing some actions? I mean the board, or you leave them until 4 or 5 years or 6 years, and then in the end, they have to renew the accreditation and so on. I mean, my question is, what are you doing through these 4 or 6 years after you accredit the programs? Thank you very much.
We have several, this is how Board of Engineers in Malaysia does it, okay, Dr. Khalil. We have our accreditation is 6 years. You either get 3 years or 6 years or 0. We don't have anything in between. So you either get 0 or 3 years or 6 years. If you got 0, okay, no problem. You need help, we can help you if you want. Those who get 3 years, we do not help them. We just give them the decision. We tell them what is wrong with for them. That's why you cannot get 6 years. You must improve that. When we come over in the 3rd year, we will check that that shortcoming only. We don't check overall. So if we got 7 criteria, if they fail only 1 criteria, that caused them to get only 3 years, we will go back after 3 years to look at that 1 criteria only. So that we want them to get the another 3 years. That's all. So, but we do not have any mentoring in between. Unless they want anything, they tell us, we will assign a mentor for them. It's up to university, totally up to university.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Khalil. Finally, let me present my gratitude to Dr. Aziz and leave the first word, the final words to the chairman of the ICAE, Dr. Ziad.
Do you hear me, Dr. Ali?
Yes, yeah. I can.
Thank you very much. Dr. Aziz, it was a very nice opportunity. We are grateful to you. It was a marvelous, fantastic presentation and beneficial to us indeed. We thank you again, and we look forward for future fruitful cooperation between us. Thank you, and we will correspond again, inshallah. Shukran.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
شكرا إن شاء الله. Thank you very much. Goodbye everyone. مع السلامة. السلام عليكم.
شكرا للحضور جميعا أيضا. شكرا للحضور عاصم. شكرا لحضوركم جميعا.
جزاكم الله خير.
إن شاء الله. حفظكم الله من كل سوء. مع السلامة.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.